Hi, welcome to the Professional Development Plan presentation for IL 620 Internship and Personnel Development 2 at Jacksonville State University. My name is Kenny Clevenger and I'm going to be leading you through this presentation today. Alright, so the first thing that you need to know is that for the professional development plan that is in place, I'm going to be walking you through one lesson plan within that professional development process. The learning goal that our teachers are going to be looking into during this PD experiment is student engagement and motivation. And along those lines, I've got 2 bullet points there that you'll notice. The first is that attendees will learn to engage and motivate students through practices that increase student resilience. And the second is attendees will collaborate to create a short presentation on a common resilience hero. The text that teachers are going to be working with for this professional development program is The Resilience Breakthrough, which is a book by Christian Moore. It's an excellent book for helping students deal with various issues that they might have, and we've had great success with it in the past. Okay, so on a typical day, teachers would enter the professional development room in our school, and on the smart TV I would have this icebreaker question with maybe this picture that says, in what ways have you seen success differ from resilience? This question is pulled directly from some materials that come with the book Resilience Breakthrough, and it would give teachers a chance to really think about the things that they had already been reading, because for this particular lesson plan, teachers would have already read part 1 of the book. So they'd be thinking about those things, and when everyone got in place, I, as the assistant principal in charge of curriculum, would lead the teachers through the icebreaker as sort of a roundtable discussion. Once that was completed, then it would be time to move into the group activity part of the lesson. For this activity, we would need Chromebooks and the smart TV. It's already in place in our professional development room at our school. A lot of times, even back when I was in the classroom, if I wanted to randomly generate groups, I would use a computer program called classroomscreen.com, and I've given the link for classroomscreen.com here on this slide. But you just simply click there and you can type in the names of all the people present. It would be a way for me to help take roll, and it would also be a way for me to randomly generate group names, because there's a random name generator there. So I'd click the random name generator, get our groups. Normally for this kind of activity, groups of 3 work best, and so we would collect teachers together in groups of 3 and then have them collaborate to create a short presentation on a common resilience hero. So they would talk together and they would open a Google slideshow and create a couple of slides so that they could then present to the whole group. I imagine that this activity would take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. It gives each of the teachers a chance to talk with their small group, and then we would transition into a large group presentation kind of situation. At the end of all the group presentations, then we would come back together and talk about the various attributes of resilience that were represented by these people that were chosen. The next thing that is part of this lesson plan that you need to know about is the handout that would go home with teachers when the period was over. At our school, teachers are all placed into PLC groups, or professional learning community groups, and they have a period during their day that is their professional learning community period. And so during that period, they would be in the professional development room walking through this book study with me, and at the end of the period they'd get this handout that I've given to you here on the slide, but it essentially has 4 questions that are extension question kinds of activities that go along with what we had already been talking about. So the group activity, the icebreaker, they all work together to talk about different ways that resilience plays a role in how to get through life for not only teenagers, but for all individuals. Okay, so then we need to talk about the continuation activity. This is one of my favorite parts of the PD programs that we have at Southside. And essentially, you'll see I've sort of laid it out there for you. Attendees will be asked to create a Padlet account. If you don't know what Padlet is, it's an online platform where you can store different kinds of media very easily. So you can store Word documents or Google documents. You can store websites. You can store online forms. You can store videos, and you can even video yourself. Some of my teachers, in fact, use this with their students when they know they're going to be absent. They record themselves on Padlet because it's a much easier way to record, and then the substitute teacher pulls the Padlet up for the students to see, and they can watch the teacher perform different experiments or lead instructions and that kind of thing in a virtual way. But for this book study, the Resilience Breakthrough book study, we have a Padlet already created that each of the teachers would need to log into, and they would then upload their hero presentations so that everyone could see them. The presentations themselves only went to the people who were also in their PLC group, but by putting them on the Padlet, all of the teachers in our school would be able to see all of these presentations, and they'd be able to share them in an asynchronous kind of way. Attendees would also upload their answers to the questions from the handout, and that way we get a sense of what everyone's thinking concerning the various parts of resilience that were questioned there in the handout. And attendees would then respond to one peer's post on the Padlet. So that gives a virtual kind of asynchronous discussion to continue the process as they continue to read. From that point forward, teachers would read part 2 of the book, and then by the time we are ready to cover that in PLC period again, the teachers will be able to refer to the Padlet for the various different kinds of things that others have been saying. And it in my experience, has been a great way to extend and continue the learning and the enjoyment of a book study when we're not all actively reading the book together all at one time. Okay, the final thing that is part of this lesson is an evaluation. And for every PD experience that we offer our teachers during the school day at Southside, we give this evaluation form. Attendees will complete the form. It's called the Evaluation of Professional Development document. And they fill this out. There's a 1 to 4 scale. 1 is insufficient. 4 is excellent. And they essentially rate the PD experience on a number of categories. They then submit that evaluation completely anonymously. I have a box outside my office. They simply fill the form out by hand and place that in my office box, and I'm able to look through them. It's the way that we sort of gauge whether something was very useful for our teachers or whether something needed to be tweaked or changed. There are always things that go well, and then there are things that don't go well. It's one of the ways that we discovered that Padlet is so very useful for our teachers, and that so many of them like it. So it is something we do look at and something that we use to make what we give our teachers better each time. I think it's an essential part of the process. But that gives you an idea of what one lesson within this professional development plan would look like. This would be one of 7 lessons to cover all of the Resilience Breakthrough text. and it would take about 1 semester to complete, just so that teachers don't feel overwhelmed in trying to get the book completely read, and so that they can put some of the things that they read within the book to use in their classrooms. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it's useful for you. Thank you for your time.